Hello, sports players, ladies and gents. Welcome to the channel. This will be my first kind of semi professional video on doing NBA DFS for FanDuel. This slate is for January 2nd, 2022. Um, I, I'm pretty sure my lineups are out alive, but last night was not a good night for me. Um, I had Marcus Morris in my lineup, and for some reason, it didn't show he was a game time decision until the Lakers Clippers games had already started. And even though I messaged the support or whatever, they basically said that it was my fault for not paying attention to the news. So maybe that's true, but they could have at least, I'm not sure, at least put the GT tag up sooner because I was in it was just a small single entry, but in a large field. But almost 13% of the field still had him. So I find it highly unlikely that if they put the GTD up there a lot sooner, that almost 13% of the field would have still had them in their lineups. So then I went ahead and played, just try to get a double up going, and I didn't check the start lineups. I just kind of assumed Christian Wood was going to start, so I had him in my double up lineup for the later games, and that killed me there. So last night was just not a good night for me. So definitely looking to bounce back here today. And I already had went into ahead and put together a core, even though I don't expect this to stick because there's a lot of news we're waiting on. As you guys know, like especially this last week, guys just getting rolled out at the last minute, not playing. Perfect example tonight, Marcus Morris, Christian Wood coming off the bench. Don't know how many minutes he played. Only put up 1.2 FanDuel points. It's just been a terrible night. So to take a look at our core here that I put together, and these guys are some of them are dual eligibility on position. If you want to move them around, that's fine. At point guard, Terry Rozier. Shooting guard, Devin Booker. Small forward, LeBron James. Power forward, Maxi Kleber. At center, Mason Plumlee. If PJ Washington and even Miles Bridges don't go tomorrow, then Mason Plumlee will, of course, look really good. So this is the core we got together right now. We will go through each team and do a breakdown. And I also will post a link to my PayPal. So because I don't have a Patreon or anything like that, you guys get, especially if you subscribe, I will put out an update video tomorrow before lock of the updated core. Um, So you guys are basically getting all my content for free. So if you want to donate to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. It'll help keep me going to keep providing you guys with this content. So let's go ahead and start going team by team and just taking a look at these guys at first look and just kind of breaking these teams down to see where we're at right now. So we'll take a look at the Cleveland Cavaliers first. We're just going to go in the order they got them in. As you know, Darius Garland is still out for COVID protocols. Jared Allen came back last slate, played almost 40 minutes. Think he went for almost 50. Um, Even though it is a pretty good, tough matchup against Indy, I think he's still viable at 7,600. I think Kevin Love, he still played even off the bench like 30, a little north of 30 minutes. So even a 7,500, he could still be in play for GPPs, but it's kind of risky. Evan Mobley, priced just about right in my opinion. Probably go for around 38, maybe 40 FanDuel points. Of course, Rick Rubio's out for the rest of the season. We still don't have Cedi Osman back. Laurie Markkinen, I never really roster him. It seems I can never get him right. Every time I've taken him, which has only been one or twice this year, he's put up a floor game. But catch him on the right game, sure, he could go for around 30, 33. Could be viable in this matchup against Indy. Dean Wade, 4,500. I'm not really too sure how many minutes he's been running. I think he's been playing off the bench. I I personally wouldn't play him. Brandon Goodwin, he's been running the backup at point guard at 4-4. Sure. I'm guessing they'll probably run around 20, 22 minutes. Could take a shot there. Okoro, Played him the one night he was majorly chalky, which was the first game after Rick Rubio had gotten injured and did absolutely nothing. But could be a viable cheap play. I personally wouldn't go there. Lamar Stevens, I think he's been running around 15 minutes. We could take a look at that real quick. Yeah, 21, 15 minutes. Nothing super productive. In my opinion, certainly not worth the 4.1K tag. Coming off the bench, especially. I wouldn't go there. Taco Fall's out of play now. Pangos, he's been starting, but he's such a low usage guy. I mean, sure, for tournaments, you maybe could take a shot there. Just not for me personally. I don't think Rajon Rondo is going to be available for this game tomorrow. Uh, must have just recently added. I don't remember seeing this guy Trey Scott, but we'll take a look at him. I mean, these guys in this range, especially on FanDuel, it's like dumpster diving or scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, see, he played 3 games ago for 9 minutes. Looks like he's a good point per minute player, but he's basically been a DMP these last two slates, so I don't know if I could go there, especially with Evan Mobley being back. So from Cleveland, at least at first look, the standouts really would be Jared Allen, uh, Laurie Markkinen. Let's see who else we got here. Really, that would probably be about it. I mean, mainly Jared Allen, uh, Kevin Love could be for tournaments. Evan Mobley. That's the only thing from Cleveland here I see that I would even consider playing. So we're gonna move on to the Boston Celtics. Big piece of news here is Jason Tatum being questionable. If he's out, definitely can look to Jaylen Brown at 8,600. Would still look really good in this matchup against Orlando. Robert Williams is also questionable. If he don't go, Al Horford at 6.8K looks really good. Also, if Tatum is out, with Schroeder being back at 5.8K, he would look really good. I'm figuring if Jason Tatum don't go, Jaylen Brown and Dennis Schroeder would probably be like the first two I'd look toward, followed by Al Horford. Now that Schroeder's back, Peyton Pritchard at 5.6K. He'll play off the bench, just not as appealing in my opinion. Josh Richardson, I'm guessing if Tatum, it just depends. I guess if Tatum's out and he draws the start at 5K, could be viable. Ennis Freedom is out for COVID protocols. Romeo Langford could be a dart throw off the bench, more riskier. Just not much really outside of Schroeder, Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Horford if Tatum's don't go. If Tatum is in, um, a lot of these guys I wouldn't have much interest in other than maybe Jason Tatum himself. Is a lot of these guys are priced up for Tatum to be out, basically. So if Tatum does go and Robert Williams, just not a whole lot on Boston looks appealing at first look, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at with that. We're gonna go ahead. Miami is still pretty thin, even though they did get Lowry back. He always like last slate. I didn't play him. He just seems to kind of take a backseat to Jimmy and Tyler Hero. But at the top, Jimmy Butler against Sacramento at 9-2. He looks really strong. Kyle Lowry at 7-5 could be a in play for tournaments, but certainly wouldn't be playing in a cash game. I would prefer Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero over Kyle Lowry. Yurseven at center I think he's an okay play at 6'2". Caleb Martin, if he draws the start again, since those all those guys are out. PJ Tucker, I think Duncan Robinson's still out. He's viable. Not very appealing. I think my first choices would be Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero. The other piece of news is to watch out for is Deadman. He is questionable. I still wouldn't expect him to get the start. We'll have to see, even if he is available, if he'll be limited or out for conditioning. Kyle Guy could be viable. Saw some pretty good minutes off the bench, and that's really all about there is for Miami with them being thin. So my first two choices would be obviously Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero. Yeah, Duncan's still out, followed by Yursevin and then Caleb Martin. I think it's Caleb Martin. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna move on to the next game. The Charlotte Hornets. The big news here. That obviously what got to see about is PJ Washington and Mikhail Bridges is questionable. That's I think I'm pretty sure I mentioned that earlier. For right now, we do have Mason Plumlee at center. Um, if PJ Washington's back and Miles Bridges, of course, he's not going to look as good. Probably would take him out of play, even at almost a 6K price tag. Lamelo Ball, very much a play for tournaments. Obviously, I'd much prefer to get to Terry Rozier at 6'6", with has massive upside. Gordon Hayward, he seems priced about right, but is viable in this matchup. Kelly Oubre looks like an okay mid range option. Probably will play off the bench. Jalen McDaniels, if Mikal Bridges don't go at 4.9K, he looks good. And that's really about it for Charlotte. They're not like super. Just depends. Like if PJ Washington and Miles Bridges don't go, they'll look a lot thinner. Kelly Oubre will look a lot better. If they go and Kelly don't start, just not as appealing at that price tag. Like I said, we'll have to keep our eyes on the news. And then taking a look at Sacramento, Halliburton now, he's obviously been the leader since De'Aaron Fox has been out. Since Fox came back, he's been struggling. If I was gonna play anybody on Sacramento, Tyrese Halliburton would be my first choice, of course. But to be honest with you, just I mean, at least at first look, not a whole lot from Sacramento stands out to me. I mean, Harris Barnes, take a look at his game log. He's you can see he's had a floor game last game against Dallas. He usually gets you around 20 to close to 30 fantasy points, so at almost 6K, priced about right. Definitely not an appealing matchup for him. Don't have much interest in Buddy Hield running off the bench. I do expect with Rashawn Holmes being out, perhaps maybe Davion Mitchell draws the starts. Marvin Bagley's been starting, but he's only been playing around 20s. Just so even at that price tag in this matchup, just not that appealing. Then we just got to keep an eye on the starting lineup for the Sacramento. See, they added Rubio to the roster. There's some new guys that just recently were added to this roster that weren't in earlier when I first looked. At least I don't remember seeing a lot of these guys. If Kuwaita draws the start at center, he could be a good value play. Like I said, a lot of these we just got to wait for the news, and most importantly, just waiting to see what these starting lineups are going to be. But overall, Sacramento in this matchup going against Miami, even though Miami's kind of thin, it's just overall on the Sacramento side. There's just other than Halliburton, there really isn't anything that appealing to me or that stands out at least the first look. Now on the Lakers, LeBron James, he's our spend up. This guy has just been playing like he's possessed. Last slate, he only played, I think it was around 30 minutes and went for over 70 fantasy points in a blowout. And this is a really good matchup against Minnesota. So I think if you're not playing LeBron James tomorrow, I mean, you might as well just, in my opinion, just burn your lineup because, I mean, LeBron James is a must play. So Russell Westbrook, more of a tournament play, but not for me. Could be viable, though, in this matchup. Carmelo Anthony, he looks like an okay mid range option off the bench. Malik Monk, if he draws the start again at 5'5", he's viable. Tucker's been running around 20s off the bench. I think Kent Bazemore's been running around 10, 12 minutes, something like that. But I mean, they have just so many guards back now for Lakers that it's unappealing as far as that goes. Outside of like the obvious like Malik Monk, Russell Westbrook, and I don't even have much interest in playing those guys. So, other than LeBron James and maybe Malik Monk and Carmelo Anthony, at least to me in first look, nothing else really stands out from the Lakers that I'd be interested in. So we do have some news for the Orlando Magic, and we have some guys questionable here. Um, Mobamba's questionable. Terrence Ross is back. Well, yeah, Terrence Ross is back, which I don't. Terrence Ross never started. He always plays off the bench, but he could be at 5'5". Even against Boston, I think he would be a decent, mid range play. I don't know why they wouldn't start R.J. Hampton with no Cole Anthony, but even off the bench, he's done okay. Gillespie started at the 4 last game, but wasn't really productive. I mean, just an okay value. Ortiz Wagner got some good run off the bench last game, but just depending on the news, if Mobamba's back, and who's there's another guy that is questionable, I think, besides Bamba. No, so it's just Bamba questionable. I mean, even at their price of 7K and 6-9 in this matchup against Boston, nothing. I personally wouldn't be looking to play anybody from Orlando. Gary Harris sure could be viable. Just nothing really appealing at all stands out to me at first look from Orlando. So I personally probably won't roster any of these guys, but if I was going to, my first choice would probably be Wendell Carter if Bamba's out. Just because if there's no Bamba, he and it also depends on the Boston side too. If Robert Williams is out, but at first look, there's just really not that much appealing to me that stands out from Orlando. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, big piece of news here: Luka Doncic is back at 10K. Looks like a very safe play. Probably go for around 50, 55 in this easy matchup against OKC. Because we'll get to the OKC news. Kristaps Porzingis is going to be out. I expect Maxi Kleber out for rest, so I expect Maxi Kleber to start at the 4, which is why he's in our core right now at 5K against a good matchup against OKC. He looks great. Jalen Brunson just depends. They could start him alongside Luca at 7,500. Still could be a fair play. Just depends. Tim Hardaway's back now. He's almost 7K. Even though it is against a good matchup against OKC, I don't think I want to pay almost 7K for Tim Hardaway. So he's not for me, but could be viable. With Tim Hardaway being back, I'm not going to pay 6,000 for Finney. So he's not. He doesn't stand out to me. Dwight Powell, if he starts at the 5, could be viable. At 4,500, just not that appealing to me. I'd much rather just play Kleber. As far as Marquise Chris goes, I don't know if he gets run off the bench, could be a viable value play. We'll just have to see what Dallas does with this starting lineup, and I don't really know. Like, I'll try to look into see how the rotations have been going. But considering that OKC is just kind of more of a small ball matchup, I wouldn't expect Chris to get much run. I'd probably look more toward Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, maybe even Moses Brown will pick up a few minutes. But nothing that really stands out to me as like a must play. Could possibly start him at the four, and then maybe start Kleber or Dwight at the like. We'll just have to see what Dallas does with their starting lineup. But the only guys that really stand out from Dallas to me first look, other than Luka Doncic himself, would be Maxi Kleber, maybe Dwight Powell and Marquise Chris. Other than that, not too much I like from Dallas. So we'll go ahead and move on to the Indiana Pacers. The news here: Malcolm Brogdon's out. T.J. McConnell, he's out. Um, so at almost 9K, Cleveland's a pretty slow paced, good defensive team, but I don't think it'll be highly owned this slate. I could be wrong, but Karis LeVert could be viable at 8-8. Demonis Sabonis at 8-5 could, he's viable. Miles Turner himself at 7-6. Sure, he could be in play, good tournament play. I think. Other than that, I wouldn't really be on any of these guys. Brissett got some run off the bench. He could be viable. It looks like at 4-6 could be a good value. Especially Justin Holiday, since there's no Jeremy Lamb. If he draws the start at 4,600, he's an okay value play. I will just say that's the thing when it comes to value plays. It seems like FanDuel prices a lot of these, always prices these guys up more than and opposed to their DraftKings price. But on the other side of the spectrum, and Goga might get some run as well. We'll have to see. But on the other spectrum, they are kind of softer on the high spend ups. But it sucks that we can never really get any good value that's like under 4K. Like most of these value guys, they're like almost 5K or in the 5K range, but still viable. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next team. So taking a look at the Phoenix Suns, we'll start at the top, which I believe Devin Booker. I think he's more expensive than Chris Paul. Yeah, so at the top, Devin Booker. This is going to be a pace up spot, fast paced match for Phoenix. As you can see, we already have Devin Booker in our core. He has more upside than Chris Paul. Chris Paul tends to give you a higher floor, but Booker the higher ceiling. Do like Booker in this matchup, obviously. Um, Cameron Johnson, he's been starting, been getting big minutes. He looks like a fair play in the mid range at 5-5. I have some interest in him. Mikhail Bridges, I don't have much interest there. No matter who's in or out, his role just never seems to change. Jalen Smith will get the start at the center at 5-3. Could be viable if he stays out of foul trouble. But for the most part, he's maybe just a little under. Just depends on how many minutes he gets. It's risky, but could be a good play at 5-3. Definitely in play. Cameron Payne, he also looks like a good mid range option. We'll get around 20, 25 minutes off the bench. Usually is a pretty good producer. Don't like it, but Landry Shaman may pick up some minutes. Nothing appealing there. Then we got Chandler Hutchinson, who's questionable. We'll just have to see what happens there. Outside of that, not too much for Phoenix. I see at first look that I like. So we'll go ahead and move on from Phoenix and move to the OKC Thunder. Again, like I said, SGA, he's out for protocols. I do expect Josh Giddey to move over to the one. He's probably going to take on most of the ball handling responsibility. So even at 6.4K, I think Josh Giddey looks pretty good in this spot. Aaron Wiggins, we'll just have to see. Lou Dort's now questionable because of his knee. If he don't go, I do expect Josh Giddey and Aaron Wiggins to start. They're the same price. Would prefer Josh Giddey, but not to say that Wiggins isn't viable or a good play. Ty Jerome will see some backup run, but at 6'2", I don't know if I could go there. Kenrich Williams, you got. He'll probably see around 20 minutes. Then as far as the rest of these guys go, there's nothing really stand out or appealing. Just have to really see what OKC does with their starting lineup here. Because we got Trey Man who's questionable. So we'll have to see on that news if he is available. He might take over with some run off the bench. So kind of wait with that. But the main guys that stand out: Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins. Um, Rest of these guys are just kind of like viable, but we'll have to see who starts. Would expect to see Isaiah Roby in the start lineup, but I don't know. We'll see. It's like I said, it's going to be more of a small ball matchup. They could run three-headed monster there. So Kenrich Williams, maybe a couple of these bench guys I'd have a little interest in outside of Josh Giddey and Wiggins, and that would really be about it. And we're going to move on to the last team, Timberwolves. The big piece of news here is Cat Williams is still out. And of course, D'Angelo Russell's still out. Um, I'm not sure why, but I just seen this. I didn't see this here earlier, but Anthony Edwards is now questionable. It says it's non-injury related, so I'm guessing it's personal reasons why he may not play tomorrow. So if he is out, we can just basically look at how it was not too long ago when those guys were out. Be Malik Beasley. Um, if Vanderbilt don't go, Jaden McDaniels, Patrick Beverly, basically the same guys you were looking at playing last time: Nas Reed, Jalen Knoll, possibly Nathan Knight, Josh Okg, Toring Prince is questionable. That's really about it. So I personally don't have a lot of interest, just depending on what happens with these Minnesota guys. If Edwards don't go, and plus you never know, any of these other guys can get ruled out at any time. But the first three guys, if Anthony Edwards and Vanderbilt don't go, I'd look at as Beasley, McDaniels, Beverly, all in the mid range price. Definitely viable in a matchup against the Lakers. So that about wraps it up for our first look, guys. And like I said, I'll put up an update video tomorrow. I'll try to get it out as early as I can before lock. I have to actually record the video, and then I don't think it would take too long, but of course get it uploaded. So be sure to subscribe so you can get the updated news tomorrow. So for right now, again, as our core, we got Terry Rozier at the point guard. He's like I said, if you some of these guys are dual eligible, like LeBron James, he could go small forward, power forward. Terry Rozier, power forward. Like you can move them around if there's other plays you see you like you want to play move in. But for right now, we got Terry Rozier, Devin Booker, LeBron James, Maxi Kleber at power forward, and Mason Plumlee at center. Leaves you almost 6,000 per player, and I'm sure there's going to be went over some good possible values. So I think this is a good core for right now, but I don't expect it to stick. So that about does it, guys. Thank you. Look forward to cashing. So you guys have a good night. Happy New Year's, and let's get this money.